Hello. I recently had the chance to try out the demo version of a new game called Inzoi, which is still in development, but already showing a lot of promise. If you're familiar with The Sims, you'll notice that Inzoi is aiming for a similar life simulation experience, but with a distinct focus on realism. Having spent some time exploring the character creation tool in the demo, I wanted to share my thoughts and experiences, especially as someone who's always appreciated the balance between creativity and realism in games like The Sims. When I first opened the Inzoi demo, I was immediately struck by how lifelike the characters looked. This was a big deal for me because, while I enjoy The Sims, I've always felt that its characters lean more towards a cartoonish or stylized appearance. Inzoi, on the other hand, seems to prioritize realism, which is exactly what I've been looking for in a simulation game. The level of detail in the character models is impressive. Everything from the skin textures to the way the hair moves feels much closer to real life than what I'm used to. The developers clearly put a lot of effort into making sure that the characters look as human as possible, and it shows. Even without any mods or additional content, the default characters in Inzoi already have a natural, almost photorealistic quality to them. That being said, my initial experience wasn't without its challenges. When I first started, I found the controls to be a bit tricky to get used to. Rotating and moving the characters, for example, took some time to figure out. The interface is different from what I'm used to in The Sims, so there was a bit of a learning curve. But I wouldn't say this was a negative, just something that required a bit of patience. Once I got the hang of it, the process became much more intuitive, and I started to appreciate how the tools were designed. Now, let's talk about the character creation process itself. If you're familiar with The Sims, you'll find some similarities here. You start with a basic template and then customize everything from the character's facial features to their body shape. However, I noticed that Inzoi offers a greater degree of customization in some areas. For example, you can adjust the smallest details, like the curvature of the nose, the depth of the eye sockets, or the way the lips curve when the character smiles. These might seem like small details, but they make a huge difference in how unique and lifelike each character feels. Now, as someone who has spent countless hours in The Sims, I couldn't help but compare the two. The Sims has been a favorite of mine for a long time, partly because of the freedom it offers in creating characters and telling stories. However, one thing that's always been a bit of a letdown for me is the cartoonish art style. Don't get me wrong, The Sims has its charm and I enjoy it for what it is. But I've always wanted a bit more realism, which is where Inzoi really stands out. In The Sims, I often find myself relying on mods to achieve the level of realism I want. Mods like sliders for facial features, custom skin tones, and realistic hair packs are almost essential for me to get the look I'm after. However, with Inzoi, I felt that this level of realism was built into the game right from the start. The default characters in Inzoi looked like they could walk right off the screen, which is something I've always wanted in The Sims, but could only achieve with a lot of modding. Of course, this brings up an interesting point. If you're someone who enjoys modding The Sims to make it more realistic, you might not see a huge difference in the character creation process itself. Inzoi's character creation is similar in many ways to what you can achieve in The Sims with the right mods. But what makes Inzoi special is that you don't need any mods to achieve that level of realism. It's built into the game from the start, which is a huge plus for someone like me who prefers a more lifelike experience. For me, The realism that Inzoi offers is its biggest selling point. I've always preferred games that lean towards the realistic side, whether it's in graphics, gameplay, or storytelling. Inzoi seems to be designed with people like me in mind, those who want their simulation games to feel as close to real life as possible. The characters in Inzoi don't just look real, they also move in a way that feels natural, with subtle animations that make them seem alive. Looking ahead, I'm really excited to see where Inzoi goes from here. The demo I tried was focused solely on character creation, but I'm curious to see what other features will be included in the full release. If the developers continue to focus on realism, I can imagine Inzoi becoming a major competitor to The Sims, especially for players who prefer a more lifelike simulation experience. I'm also interested in seeing how the community will respond to Inzoi. Will there be a modding community like there is for The Sims? Even though Inzoi already offers a lot of realism, there's always room for further customization, and I can see a lot of potential for user-generated content. Plus, if the developers continue to add new features and customization options, Inzoi could become a game that really stands out in the simulation genre. In summary, my experience with the Inzoi demo has been really positive, despite a few initial challenges with the controls. The character creation process is both familiar and fresh, offering a level of realism that I've been craving in simulation games. While it shares some similarities with The Sims, particularly in the way you customize his characters, Inzoi stands out because of its built-in realism. For someone like me, who prefers a more lifelike gaming experience, Inzoi has a lot of potential. I'm excited to see where the game goes from here and how it will continue to develop. If you're someone who enjoys The Sims, but wishes it were a bit more realistic, I definitely recommend keeping an eye on Inzoi as it gets closer to release. It might just be the game that finally delivers the level of realism we've been looking for in a live simulation game.